response. So, again,
Call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order.
yep. Right.
Lots of good conversations up here. We'll work off the agenda here. So the first meeting, obviously, after the long August break here. Hope everyone is doing well and ready to get back at it for the final push of this council session. The first order of business is the minutes of our last meeting of July 18th.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And unless there's any reason to change the order of any of these grant approvals, we'll just work through them in order. The first on the list is GA 318, the Alert Auto Larceny Education Reduces Theft. Welcome.
Captain Christopher Moy from the police department. The alert grant is a grant that we try to obtain every year for auto theft prevention. We've had it in place for numerous years now. Pays for a part-time employee and hand-out materials for community services.
And has the dollar amount sort of stayed the same over time, or is it?
It has increased minimally.
Okay.
It started out at around 19,000 or 18,500. Now it's up a little over 25.
Thank you. Alderman Payam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What specifically is the money used for? I know what the purpose is, but what do we actually do with it? Is this just overtime? Is this,
No.
what is it?
This is just paid for a community services person to a part-time community services person for community awareness on auto theft prevention and theft from auto prevention. It's paid through by the State Auto Theft Prevention Council.
Is that person on the force? Is that, I mean,
No, it's a part-time employee.
is this what Sergeant Emery used to do?
Yes, it is.
Or is it Lieutenant Emery?
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant, okay.
He was a sergeant
It's
one
Bob.
time before me, yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Captain White, since we have you, it looks like you have a couple other ones here. If we want to just, we'll just take care of yours in order, if that's okay. Looks like the next one in line that's yours is 618, the Safe Streets Initiative. Can you speak to that?
Safe Streets Initiative is a annual grant that we apply for through the governor's office for crime prevention and crime deterring. The numbers, if you ask about the amounts every year, have increased, decreased. Last year was paid for two-person salaries, or towards person salaries, overtime that we use it for crime suppression. And last year we were awarded additional funding for cameras, which are currently being utilized in Robinwood and...
Body cameras?
no, these are for stationary cameras
Okay.
on the side of some of the
Thank you.
buildings. That money is, like I said, applied for every year for these various things, but mainly for the salaries of two employees and overtime for offset.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In my ward, I'm getting some pressure to consider using artificial intelligence, smart technologies. As we grow more and more cameras, is there a way that we can use this money or some other money like it to connect the cameras so we can identify crime situations and then follow them from one camera to the next?
I can't speak to the technology part of it, but as far as the Capital City Safe Streets money, just like we did for an amendment last year for the additional $175,000, I don't see there being a problem with us. You know, each department or each group is given certain pots of money.
Right.
These monies are allocated by the governor's office. We, of course, if we have that technology in mind, we can go back to the governor's office and say, we have these in place and we've purchased these cameras, can we utilize it for that? And they can set additional awards from that point.
The thinking behind it is that I don't think we're ever gonna have enough money to have enough officers to fully implement community policing. But to the extent that we can have this capital applied that would make the force more effective, maybe that we can free up some officers, and then when something bad happens, which we never know when that's going to be, this technology can be thrown in the breach, and so officers that are on the beat aren't left away from their car and away from the ability to pursue.
That's correct. And also the downtime it takes for some of the people to actually view the cameras,
Mhm.
because they're going from one camera to the next, as
Right.
opposed to like a circuit kind of connecting all of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that job. So, all right, well, thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Pam?
Thank you. Does shot spotter technology enter into the picture at all? What are your thoughts? I've read about it. I've got some thoughts of my own, but,
To be honest with you, I'm not familiar with a lot of it.
okay. All right, thank
The
you.
problem with shots fired is it's sound only.
There's,
The cameras-
there's tons of problems with it,
Yeah,
in my
right.
opinion.
But the cameras it can do so much more, including pick up the crime activity.
Okay. Any
Move
other questions or comments? Okay.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And next on your list here, looks like 718 Internal Affairs Investigations Training.
This is a training that our professional standards and Sergeant Ferguson from our Internal Affairs section apply for periodically. I think last year they forewent it, but the year before they went down to the same training, just for updated materials, case laws, and procedures relative to internal investigations.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Is this a conference worth going to?
I've never been.
Okay, good answer. That seems a little high just for 4 or 5 days.
Well,
2,200.
I believe it's for the airfare, the hotel, the conference itself, and per diems are all factored into lump sum.
Do they know that Allegiant Airlines flies direct to Savannah? And they're cheap?
There's other elements too, yes, sir.
Got it.
Yeah. Since it was
Thank
2
you.
weeks ago and he's already gone, we probably should approve the
Yeah,
the
right.
GT, so.
Move
We need a
approval.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And 818, School Safety Enforcement.
The safety enforcement is a grant that we apply for, bless you, that we apply for annually for additional overtime funding depending on school bus safety and seatbelt awareness and such and so on through state highway, I believe.
Sure. Sort of an annual exercise here. Any questions or comments?
None.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Easy enough. It looks like your last one is the NET Team initiative.
To increase community outreach and some of the programs that we have in place already, the police department has applied for a grant for overtime to be paid out. I believe it's only 8 hours specific to those communities and to enhance the neighborhood enforcement team or enhancement team and their outreach to the communities in which they affect.
Okay. Sure. Alderman Arnett?
So I'm in favor of more money for net, but net, it seems like the officers are in and out, depending upon other demands. And so what I hear often from constituents is that when the gunshots happened, there was no net team available. Is this going to improve that situation, or is this some other kind of expenditure?
I think some of the money is allocated for that and then base programs that are already in place, such as some of the outreach to the children and like the reading club and the homework club and some of the other kids clubs that we have in place. in which those specific areas are impacted. So we do have the net team, of course, in the Clay Street area and Harbor House area. They have after-school programs that officers currently are assigned to and would offset some of those costs for those.
Okay, so it's a complement to community policing.
That's correct.
Great. Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And looking back up the top here, GA 418, the State of Maryland Department of Natural Resources Critical Area Commission, grant and aid. Please come forward. Welcome.
Evening, afternoon. Pete Gutwell, Director of Planning and Zoning. This is a yearly grant that's provided by the Department of Natural Resources to basically implement the critical area program. It basically offsets salaries to implement the critical area program, the rules, and participate in their reporting requirements. The grand total of $6,000, so not really offsetting much, but we take what we can get.
There you go. Any questions or comments?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Lisa, now we get to you. Sorry for jumping around on you.
I've never seen Mr. Gutwell move quite that quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Lisa Craig, Chief of Historic Preservation. The grant request before you is from the Maryland Historical Trust, $15,000 non-match for 3 components of the last major public outreach effort on Weather Together, which is a conference called Keeping History Above Water. Funding's paying for facility use, honoraria for some international and national speakers from out of the area, and for one other item. Certified local government staff coming from around the country or from around the state of Maryland to attend the conference.
Great. Any questions or comments from?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Easy enough. Thank you.
Good luck with this. This looks like a really good idea.
Good. I hope you will all be there.
We'll be there.
Yeah, right there.
In light of Irma coming.
We're going to be campaigning.
And the last GA is GA 1018, Chesapeake and Coastal Bays Trust Fund.
And if I could just
Sure.
clarify before we begin, this item is actually more of a business item than a grant to the city. Director Broadbent will further explain, but this is actually a grant that Spa Creek Conservancy applied for and was awarded, but it involves some property of the city. So.
Oh, great. Okay. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Maria Broadbent, Director of the Office of Environmental Policy. And like Ms. Plutzer said, even better. So this is a grant to Spa Creek Conservancy that pays for a stream restoration project that's partially on the city's property, partly on the Housing Authority's property, and a thin little sliver on the Spa Cove Apartments property. And it works just the same as the others that we brought before you. The state, through the funding from Department of Natural Resources and the funds that come through the sale of the Chesapeake Bay license plates, pays for these grants. These projects get installed. The city receives the credit towards our permit requirements under the condition that we maintain them once they are finished. So it's a good deal for us. This particular project is just about through the permit process. I will add that from the other projects that we've had of a similar flavor lately, we've learned a few things along the way. And one is that we needed to make sure that the outreach was a lot more robust than we thought it needed to be. So my practice now is to insist that the group that's getting the grant and working with their contractors to get the permits that they and I agree on an outreach process before I would bring them forward to this committee. So this particular project, there will be a meeting on, I believe it's October 20th. I will send you all the information so you know when it is. It'll be at the Eastport Fire Station, and all of the residents from the areas where these trucks will be going through, which includes the Housing Authority property, and the folks that live on Spa Cove down near that area will all be invited to that meeting, so that we're fully aware that these people at least had the opportunity to get the information, that they will know what's going on. These projects can be kind of wearying to the neighbors because there's a lot of trucks, there's a lot of noise, and they go on for a few months. So we want to make sure that everybody that could possibly get contacted got something in the mail this time.
Great. Thank you for the summary. Any questions or comments?
No, this is another one of these good projects. So
Yep.
far, I have not heard any negative. The community around the cove seem all very excited about this. Have you heard anything?
About this one that's coming to you right now?
Yeah.
Hawkins Cove? No, I've not heard any feedback about it, but what I will say is the trucks have to go right down through the neighborhood where we've got public housing on both sides, and there's a lot of kids. So part of my rationale for all the outreach was to make sure that people with children knew to keep an eye on the kids, because these trucks will be going through there for probably a month.
Right, and
Month
I'm
or
sure,
so.
I'm sure everyone's very excited until the loud trucks start on early in the morning, right? Like, which is always the way of all these things.
That's
but
always the way, yeah, and I'm gonna try and get them to not drive through there during the times that the school buses are picking the kids up and dropping them off.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Great. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you very much. Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, on to budget revision requests. The first GT is 118, transfer from the PIO salaries to contract services.
Oh, again, I'm sorry.
No,
Nikki
please.
Pletzer, Finance Department. I request that GT 118 be removed from the agenda. That GT actually falls within the criteria of the city manager's approval, and
Yeah.
that approval is
Perfect.
Easy enough.
Yeah. It's our best thing.
Which comes to GT 218, transfer from city dock infrastructure CIP to maintenance facility CIP.
You're up.
I don't have, oh, okay, I got it now.
Welcome, David.
David Gerald, Director of Public Works. Two things. We still have some money left in the bulkhead CIP since we were about $1 million under budget. And we have a need for some additional funds for the Public Works Maintenance Facility, the long, can you hear?
Yep.
The long-standing project that we're finally ready to move ahead with. So what we had to do is, the maintenance facility project, when we first, it's design build, so the design builder takes bids, and they were about $1 million over budget. So over the last probably 5 months, we've been doing a lot of scope reduction and value engineering, and gotten it down to the amount of budget that we have today, which is $4.3 million. My concern is, as we move into the project, that we may have some unforeseen site conditions that would bring the project to a screeching halt, since we don't have any extra money in the budget. So this $325,000 that's in the bulkhead project is just for contingency. If we don't need it, we won't use it. And hopefully we won't have unforeseen site conditions where we need it. But in case we do need it, then we have it and we can move forward with the project.
Okay. Alderman Arnett.
So the director and his staff have a pretty good record of bringing these things home, and I certainly would vote to recommend approval of this.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that. I don't see any reason not to. It doesn't involve any more money. It's just a matter of a little bit of a, I'm not going to say it's a game, but a shell game is what I was thinking of. It just goes from one to another. No, but I mean, we're not adding anything here. It just goes from one fund to another fund, and I sure don't have any problem with that. I think it's appropriate.
So
And if it hasn't been moved, I would move for approval.
Second?
Let's ask one question. So is that the 325 from the city dock, is that the last of the million, or is there more
No,
out
we
there?
actually have another 250,000 that's going to come to you in the relatively near future to use on the city dock boardwalk. It's really, really rough right now. It's that first phase of around Susan Kimball Park.
Mhm.
So you'll see that soon. That'll actually be a new CIP setup, so we have to go through the full, it's an ordinance,
add
and
it
go
into
through
this
the
here.
full hearing process for that to add a new CIP. But that's 250,000, then the balance, which is about 25,000, is going to be for stormwater management improvements associated with the tennis courts over at Truxton Park.
Oh, okay. I've heard a bit about that. Okay. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded, favorable recommendation of the council. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it looks like we're down to finance update, Mr. Finance Director.
Well, at the moment, we are focused on the audit. We will also be bringing forward some changes in the investment policy. It's a basically housekeeping item relative to identifying entities to do business with the raising interest rates. It's smart and prudent to start looking at other options other than the Maryland Investment Trust, which all our money is in right now. They will all be investments that are approved by the state of Maryland. Basically, they're U.S. Treasuries, CDs, that kind of thing. Nothing, no equities, nothing of any nuance, just straightforward. But it should boost our yield, and as yields and rates go up, it makes sense to do so. Whereas before, interest rates were a little above zero, so it didn't make a lot of difference. So that will be coming forward, and then that's pretty much where we're at.
So that's probably the last piece of action in this council term that will have to be dealt with in that time window of the next
Exactly.
6 weeks. Okay. Any questions or comments, or anybody got anything?
Move approval.
We
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And there's one housekeeping issue. I was talking to Nikki today about, since obviously we start to, this time of year, there's always sort of the flow of legislation before the council starts to get very thin, before the committees, about trying to sort of move our meetings to sort of a time that's easier for staff at some point during the day. And I guess the question is, when we get to October, do we even need 2 meetings based on what you have and stuff? But so, if anyone has any particular time concerns, we can talk about it. I think we'll probably just send out an email basically of what we're thinking, and see if anyone objects to it. But we're down to basically, 4 more meetings basically, probably.
Exactly.
So we see if we can get those at a time that makes sense for everybody and lock them in. Sound good?
Okay.
Cool. Do we have a?
Not my job.
Mr. Chair, it's 27 minutes after 5. Hard to believe, but I'm moving that we adjourn. Particularly with the presence of Alderman Arnett. This has got to be record time, right?
That's good. I'm not going to get in trouble for keeping my daughter from gymnastics practice. And I told
Yes.
her, I said it'd be a quick meeting and then I'll take you. Hi, Amelia. You say hi?
Amelia,
Everybody wins.
Amelia's probably the happiest person in this room because she seems to look a lot more like her mother than her father.
Very nice. Very nice. Second? Yes. All in favor, move to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.